Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or welcome back to GameStar TV and our continuing coverage, our final night of coverage of the Blizzard ANZ Season 4 qualifiers. That's right, it's the last qualifying performance of any of these teams, and from this point onwards, we head on towards the 30th of September and the LAN finals for 4 teams for the first time in the ANZ region to take place in Sydney. Now, we have had things all thrown up into the air from the results. So we had it on during the break, but let's head on over there just very quickly and have a look at what the bracket looks like. We had Nomia and Milkshake on stream, and Nomia won that with a swift 2-0. Milkshake putting up a valiant fight, especially in the Towers of Doom, but unfortunately Nomia just too strong for them. So they go through. Off air and recorded to VOD, and that's an important point to make, was Dark-Sided and Crimson. And apparently, according to the casters that were covering that, it was an absolute cracker. So we are very, very pleased that we've got, we're going to be able to upload that to YouTube for you to view, because it sounds like it was an awesome match. And it was an upset. We kind of like Dark-Sided was seeded as second. Crimson came out on top of that though, so they advanced through to the second round of the upper bracket and pushed Dark-Sided down into the lower bracket. Now, what you do not see at the moment on screen right now, the update should come through soon, is that NMD have won their first match against Capital, and that means they push through into that other slot. There you see it now on UB3, so they are going up against Dark-Sided. And even though we've marked that for straight to YouTube, we think that that's going to be a closer game, and it's actually got a lot more there's the result of it is going to affect seeding going into the finals as well, because right now, with the way that points stand, Dark-Sided and Crimson are on an even 23 points. Now, if NMD managed to knock Dark-Sided down, we're going to have a tie for 23, and then we'll have to see what happens. We may actually have to have a tiebreaker. Now, if there is a tiebreaker, it's not going to happen tonight. Don't worry, we're not going to keep you up all night, but it will be an interesting situation. So this is a crucial match for both Dark-Sided and NMD, and so we're going to be bringing it to you. Now, what are your expectations, really, Skimmy? We know that the map that has been chosen for the first round is Towers of Doom.
Yep.
Who are you going to pick in terms of the stronger team on that particular map?
I mean, it can go either way. Towers of Doom is a map which, as you saw before, can force that aggression. It just comes down to that sort of team fighting presence. Dark-Sided are characterized by being one of the best teams for team fighting and aggression. NMD are almost in a very similar position as Milkshake. They're a team that have been around not as long as the sort of top 4 established dynamics. So anyone's guess would be for NMD, much the same as Milkshake versus Nomia, but I would say that Dark-Sided would lead that edge.
Well, Vandy, you know, Skimmy's just mentioned that NMD are they effectively the underdogs on this. Do you think that that's going to help their mentality going into this match?
I think it will, because when you're an underdog, I think you've got that mentality of it's do or die. So you kind of go into it and you're like, all right, we already are on the back foot. Let's see what we can do. And NMD, they've shown in the past that they are made of strong stuff, and they can surprise us with some weird and wacky drafts and take teams, sweep them even in a couple of games. Towers of Doom was one where we remember them doing a weird and wacky draft. Let's see what they can do. I think it will give them the edge.
Of course, both of these teams have made it through to the finals, so we have our top 4 for the finals. This is now really about pride, it's about seeding points, and it's about avoiding tiebreakers. So we're going to take you into the match. All of the players are ready, so take it away, Skimmy.
That's the one. Towers of Doom locked in here by the boys from Dark-Sided. First pick being opted for by NMD. In terms of the map vetoes leading into this one, we saw Tomb of the Spider Queen being taken away, which you have to imagine was from the NMD department, with Dark-Sided opting for a Sky Temple, which, much the same as we saw in the previous series, is a typical ban they just really hate versing those globals.
It really, really will be, Skimmy. Let's see what they can bring out. Are we going to see some cheese? Is really going to be my question here. Oh, look at this. No hesitation. Hacky's Chromie out. See ya. Bye-bye.
I mean, we talk about it all the time. This is a pick that Hacky has made himself famous for, but It's almost a pick that you have to feel as if I need to ban it. Otherwise, there's no real chance for us to win on a fair, even playing ground, right? So it's almost like, let's eliminate all that cheese that you were just discussing, and let's just try and play standard meta heroes. Tesla being taken out, and that is the meta hero.
He's so far in the meta. Either teams, even the Milkshake boys, they were saying, we respect that, we're going to ban it. And a lot of that strength that Tassadar brings is enabling that duo support composition. And he pairs so nicely in. You do leave Garrosh open and Darksided. They were going into this one.
Not the best. Actually, a really good response to start off, though. Greymane being picked up here, almost expecting Garrosh was going to be the response. Curse Bullet obviously shredding through the armor. No forgiveness for that. But Ufa them being the pairing. We know Moops loves to play the Ufa. He played it religiously during the Season 3 finals, even during the Season 3 circuit. And Season 4 still such a strong hero despite the changes. But with Oriole falling out of favor, he's reverted back to this one here. So you expect to see some hyper carry to back Ufa up with. But Garrosh to start off with, I mean, we saw what they did with it last week. It was a hero that we discussed off air leading into it, saying this is a hero that they will do so much work with. It really fits their playstyle. And wow, flick it over to the other call. And Medivh is locked on in.
Yeah. That's also another hero that we said we hadn't seen in the ANZ scene as much. We know in Europe he is so popular, so dominant, and a lot of that comes through utilizing the best of your force of wills, negating so much damage that comes in to that extent as well. And portals for days. You can really either choose to fight or back away quite safely. Medivh can offer so much in that regard. Pairs really nicely with the Rhaegar. Will really soak up a lot of that incoming damage. And I believe it's Physics who's really shown us in a few games on that Medivh. He's really mastered it quite well. They're hovering over Muradin and they do lock it in, the Darksided boys, showing that they really value their backline, as well as just having a nice beefy tank to support all that. If you've got that paired with the Rhaegar Medivh, that's just so much sustainability.
And this Medivh that you were talking about before, this is a comfort pick, a pick that we haven't actually seen from any other team, I believe, if I remember correctly. So it's cool to see they have that diversity amongst their roster to flex in those kind of directions and, bring a different type of flair to it, much the same as Chromie is respected. This is a pick that NMD can bring it to the table with. Greymane, Rhaegar, and Medivh locked on in. Genji has always been a priority for Darksided as well, and denying it away from the Ufa is a good start for things. But we've known in the past they love to run the Arthas. Both teams actually love to run the Arthas. So in this next rotation, would you be looking to pick that up? That is the question that must be spinning through their heads right now as we approach the 18-second mark.
Oh, Mouthfeel being picked up on the side of Darksided. And a Jaina, not even rework Jaina. This is classic vanilla Jaina. The changes that are on the PTR for her have not yet come through. I mean, she still can offer a lot of lockup. More importantly, she's got that wave clear, which can be quite advantageous in Towers of Doom. But that's something interesting. Is that going to be Hacky playing that one with his Mage of Choice being banned out?
I'd imagine so, and it's actually a really smart drafting by Darksided because Genji is one of the biggest counters towards it, and by NMD banning it away from themselves, they've said, cool, now we can actually transition our draft into that direction. And once again, classic Darksided, right? They've gone for a kill composition, and what better pick than Jen? The Ring of Frost slows everybody down, and Malfield can then stack on top of that with a Tormented Soul. So that's going to be a little cool synergy that you have to wait and see if it becomes a real deal or not. Two final picks, and much the same as last game, it is Tales of Doom. They're going to rock with that Zagara. And speaking of rocking, it's the cow, Death Metal ETC.
Ooh, ETC to enable them with the Mosh and try to stop them in their tracks before Malthael can lock them down and dish out all that damage with the Tormented Souls. Garrosh, the way I really read how Darksided's draft will play is it's all going to be based off that Garrosh with that Wrecking Ball followed up by Uther. That's why the Jaina, I believe, was also taken. Just so much burst potential on a single target that can come out with that Cone of Cold, Frostbolt with the Chilled passive that she gets as well, dealing double damage. Yeah, it's going to be scary stuff. You want to make sure that you do not get hit by that one. Tychus to round off their composition. So Garrosh will be the only solo tank. People can say he does struggle, or at least he did on the PTR when it was just running one tank. I think people are a lot wiser now. They know how to support him better and also utilize his armor passive.
So it's actually going to be really cool this time because we had Zagara versus Dahaka last match. This time it's going to be Zagara versus Malfield. So we have to keep an eye and see actually how Malfield plays, be it Session in this one here. So otherwise, it's going to be coming down to that kill comp execution. Once again, ETC leading on in. He's going to have that Force of Will from the Medivh. And then the Insurance later on with that Ancestral from the Rhaegar. So that almost like that buff for that window that he can ensure it successfully lands within. But both teams, I mean, they're looking to clash heads. They want to bash rocks and see which one comes away less chipped, to try and net the win. But there's more than just pride on this one. Vikrak used to be a member of Darksided, so he's playing for pride. He is looking to get vengeance on his old roster.
Yeah, he's going to be looking for blood on that one, and he knows all the ins and outs. So you've got that team advantage, team knowledge, as well as the advantage of playing with these members, seeing what they favor, the tactics that they used to utilize. Get a bit of those mind games happening, but on the flip side as well, we talk about that one with Robodoba. Every time he comes up against the Nomia boys, have there been leak strats? I don't think so. It's all well and fun in the ANZ region, Skimmy. But shall we kick this off and get these teams introduced?
Yes, we shall, Vandy. Towers of Doom is where we are at. It's Darksided up against NMD on the blue side, rocking with the team captain. It's Moops on Uther, Robodoba on the tank of choice, Garrosh, Hacky playing Jaina, Session on Malfiel, and Demise finishes it out as Tychus.
Red team. This is Team NMD with Hiccup as their captain, and he's playing Medivh, Lahal on Rhaegar, Vikarak on Zagara, Physics playing Greyman, and Icebolt on ETC.
And one thing I want to say straight away, Vander, we talked about how good Physics is on Medivh, and then Hiccup decides to play instead, so he's just toying with our heart. But speaking of the fight, it's already breaking out. Chaos in the mid lane portal is fantastic, making sure Physics does not get one shot, does not fall down, and that is all down to the Force of Will putting in overtime, making sure that he can live. All that chaos, all that mana, but all that health survives.
Yeah, if you can utilize that Force of Will to get the best timing possible, where you mitigate all of that damage, it's just so many cooldowns blown just for one. That's all you're training it for. That's why Force of Will can be exceptionally strong. That Zagara and Malthiel matchup in the top, as long as Vikarak can safely push and Sashin is bullied off away from the minions, it makes it hard for him to heal, and Zagara can ultimately end up winning that lane.
The one thing I'm really concerned about for NMD right now is they have to rely on Physics so much as this Greyman, because if he's not alive, they literally have no damage. I mean, Medivh, yes, he can pop out the Arcane Rest from time again, but I mean, other than that, you're relying on the Zagara split push to try and net a win, so if you can't win this 4-man bounce, you have to rely on the Zagara to body the Malfield on top lane.
Well, I think what they'll be looking to do, or their best chance, will be to ley line and get Icebolt into a position where he can get a juicy mosh. But look at this, he can't get away. Force of Will can only do so much, it's still going to fall. Portal not yet there, it was used earlier. Yeah, stay around, and Jaina, she's going to freeze you, she's going to slow you, and that's where she can really get the best of her abilities. Anyone in melee range that she can slow, devastating.
That was actually fantastic performance right there from Darksided. The synergy between this, between their cooldowns to make sure he was in every single tick, all 3 ticks of the Blizzard, ensured he died despite the cooldowns being used on both Lahal and Hiccup to try and keep in her life. The phase has spawned, the altars are going across. 2 members of Darksided in the top lane going to bully out this Vikarak, which is putting in work. But I mean, in the bottom lane as well, they're losing that too, so they do not want to start this off with the 40-0 Dream.
No, they don't. They're fighting hard for this one. Moops is the one that's being collapsed upon. He's so close to falling. Finally, he does get taken out. The passive will mean that he can stay and heal, but they don't have the numbers in the dark side of boys. They know that. 2 members still locked up trying to cap the top point.
And they do a good job. Demise acting as the bodyguard, the bouncer at the steps, saying you are not allowed to pass on through here. All things considered, they get 2 as NMD take the bottom one in Physics. I mean, he's in a bit of trouble right there. Very close to Robodoba, who has gone for the Wall Breaker, not going to opt for the increased throwing range on that Wrecking Ball. And that Wrecking Ball, I mean, as good as the song is, it's a scary talent.
Loving the song, I see. Let's see how that one pans out. But as you said, Skimmy, we need to watch out. And more importantly, that's the composition that they're running. Let's see, Robodoba, he'll be looking to grab anyone that comes into reachable distance, throw them in and let his team blow them up. And with that, they can really start to capitalize and get that push going. So far, they're keeping up both teams quite well in experience. With the Sapper camp now, they're trying to escort it on both sides. I mean, you can't really do too much unless team members are dead, but you can start to force the fight or try to play their chicken game where you bully the other opposing team off.
Yeah, there's no clear advantage at this stage, but I'm really interested to see is how Darksided mainly play this one. Do they decide to put all their eggs in this 4-man rotation, or do they try and prioritize the top lane and bully out Vikarak? Session has left the game. I mean, they were still playing. I was like, I think he's going to play with the bot by their side. No, Malfiel bot against Zagara, probably not the best idea. We should probably cause that pause. But I mean, yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is where does Demise put those eggs in that basket, so to speak? I mean, he's playing as a solo laner right now in the mid lane. He went for the towers to start things off, bullying out Vikarak. Is that where they put all their priority and say, if you can't win the bottom lane, then you can't win top lane either, and we're just going to slowly choke you out? No clear XP lead to start things off with.
Yeah, It really depends on how they play that one out and exactly how they best capitalize on this. And with the pause as well, you can see the positioning here. Robodobo, the passive's kicked in as well. But what I'm really interested to see is once 10 sets in and heroics are chosen, will there be, I guess, will Iceball be able to make the most out of that mosh pit? Because as you said, they're very, very low on damage, the NMD boys.
And it's going to come down to how they can execute with this one. Obviously, they had the Ancestral, they had the Force of Will to ensure that Physics can stay alive. He has opted for the Cocktail build, so he's not going to go for the Wizened Duelist build that we sometimes see when you have that double support to back you up. So he's not going to be looking to empower his auto attacks. He's all about that splash damage, and we'll have some reliable splash targets, especially with Garrosh looking to get into the front lines to try and toss members around, utilize that Warbreaker to flip them all over the show. But I mean, we talked about it at the start of this series, who had the clear advantage in this one. You had to imagine Darksider do. They've got a draft which really just caters to their style of play. It's all eyes on NMD with their flex picks, with their niche style of play to show us something new and show us some potential. Knowing that they've already got that top 4 spot, what the seeding can look like for them.
And I mean, speaking of that flexibility, we forecasted that it was going to be Physics playing the midi, but instead it's Hiccup. So since the scrims, or since we got a little bit of intel and a couple of games on these guys, it seems that they've also switched it up. And luckily, we do have Sashin back in the gate, and we can go. 3, 2, 1, let's go. We're back into it, Skibby.
3, 2, 1 or 3, 2, 3, whatever floats your boat in this case, as the action continues back to the top lane. Bot Session, he's down to half. Not a good story for him, knowing he's up against the Sagara, which can just bully him all day long, especially with that Hydralisk, which is just chasing him all day. But back to the bottom lane, that is where the action's at. Alter has spawned, the up in 25. Going to be 2 in this bottom section of the map, and once again, it all plays into my idea of where does Demise, what is effort?
I don't know. Demise, he's happy to push at the moment, net all that really important experience. 7, first acquired by NMD, Alter spawning. How are they going to play this one? With that middle and bottom shrine, with the middle and bottom Alter spawns, it really can make or break a fight, because if you overcommit to one area, the enemy team can sense that and pick you out on it, so just need to be careful.
So an interesting shot call's being made right now. They're going to say, Vikrak, stay in the top lane, just keep on pushing. We're going to make this a 4v5. We want the stalling tactics. They're going to go for these altars to start things off with. Demise is beginning at Hiccup. Isn't going to collapse with that channel. Yakin Rift does not work, but he's getting 3 shots right now, padding that Master's Touch. Vikrak is still pushing on down. That Bell Tower is down to half, so he's putting in work. But the sacrifice is we lose 2 altars as a result.
They do. Robodobo, he gets the Wrecking Ball on, and I mean, even with the Cleanse Physics, the Force of Will gets him out.
That's exactly what they needed and exactly what they got. And now, it is those 2 Bell Towers, or 2 altars in favour of Darksider, but the damage has been done in the top lane. They've got it so low, he didn't actually finish it off, though. That pays off pretty hard. Tychus does fall, but Sashin is going to get the Reaper's Mark, looking for the kill. Yes, he does. Action in the top lane, and Chaos in the bottom.
Cheeky Hiccup using the portal as well to pick up that last kill onto Hacky, who's incredibly low. So overall, even as a 4v5, that worked out quite nicely on the side of NMD. Yes, they lost both altars, but they got kills for their troubles, and more importantly, they almost got that Bell Tower. Vikrak, as you said, putting in the yards. Almost a repeat of that Nomiya game that we just saw and how they played that one rematch. Moves is dangerously low. They get another kill. With this, they can push.
They pop through the portal and say, how are ya? And he wasn't really feeling too good as a result of that one. He falls on down, but ATC, as a result of Rob flipping him over, does take a lot of damage. I mean, that gate was broken. He would have walked on out, but just so much damage hits him in the face. They trade things out, but I mean, the XP, once again, Vandy, it is just so close. There is no clear advantage, despite both these teams playing it in different manners.
I mean, I think that was a bit of Caster's curse right there. I said, wow, they can push, and next minute, Iceball goes in a little bit too deep and gets traded on out. So not like this is all I'm saying in my head, internally screaming, but let's see how they can go. They do get the sappers for their troubles, and if they are not stopped by Hacky, they can get a couple of shots, break down this front wall, and that leaves the Bell Tower exposed. Only 1 altar. They can fight now. They don't need to spend their resources. Sashin is trying to clear the push, the non-stop push coming out of Vikrak Zagara. And that can be why Zagara is such a good... If you don't have pressure constantly on her, yes, she's very immobile, but the push that she brings, my goodness.
Indeed, she does. Nidus Network unlocked for her, so looking to continue that siege, that ruthless assault, as ultimates are all unlocked right now. And the Odin is popped preemptively. Lahal begins the channel, but the Odin is going to try and find some value. Robodover gets the flip to start things off with Curse Bullet. Is the response on towards him. Ring of Frost. Who can it connect with? It can connect with Rhaegar. Say hello to my little friend as Tormented Souls comes across as well. And Session is finding value with this one. A second flip during that fight. That's the 1 kill, and that's their second kill. And that's all they need to secure second altar.
So they're trading out, what they're doing is they're trading out fights. Sure, they're trying to stall, but what that's letting Vikarak do, he finally captured that top bell tower. He's working his way on mid now. He needs to be careful. He does not want to trade a kill. That will really negate what he was trying to achieve with this push. Robodover senses it though. You can see the dark side of response instantaneous. They can read his movements.
Not like this. He's trying to get the return kill, but Rob just runs on his merry way. 46 armor to the 250 health pool he has. And yes, it works. Well, when Medivh drops as well, and amongst all the chaos, I mean, that XP that you're seeing right now is starting to work in Darksided's favor. Not to mention the core count, 36 to 21.
Whew. That's really not the way the way that NMD did not want that one to pan out, because they needed to get the push going and, more importantly, not trade the experience from the kills. You really win this by getting the objectives and then keeping the enemy team rotating around. So what they need to do is rotate but not get a kill. That means it's just wasted time, and then you can then mount a defense. You could have pushed in that time while they were chasing Vikarak.
Yeah, you can see right now there's not been a single 5v5 situation. Vikarak always on the hunt, looking for more value. Where can he push? How can he keep Darksided punished? And he's done some work now in the top lane. Sappers are being picked up. They're going to go through that bell tower, which he took and sieged upon earlier in this game. If there's no response from Darksided, those are 3 shots for free. It's going to force out the rotation right now. And what can NMD to do as a response to them all committing to the top lane?
This is NMD's chance now. You're reading your opponent, exactly like you said. Our sappers are pushing, they have to respond to that. They also need to recap that bell tower. Let's see where we can find value. Either push through mid, no, there's members there. Instead, they've opted to trade back, get their bottom bell tower back. And then we'll be back to square one once the altar spawn, with the exception, Darksided, because they were on the top side, they've actually not bothered with the bell tower. They saw the positioning of NMD and they've made the boss call.
Yeah, I mean, the sappers being cleared around, forcing NMD to go to the bot lane, but they say, cool, we can be the ones that are proactive here. We're going to go for this one, and that's going to be in the power slide, but Session gets ready amongst it. Oh, and Session's going to connect, but what can it find? Mosh Pit onto one to start things off. Divine Shield is onto Session, who is just continuously hitting members hard. The percentile damage doing overtime. 1 falls for NMD. Looking for a second right now. Lahal is the second casualty in amongst us all. Oh, the grenade! And the machine gun on the Frostbolt Hacky, looking for the start, the triple kill. It would have been the dream, but they'll suffice with 2 with level 13 really coming on hard.
Warlord's challenge was enough to lock Lahal in place, and that feels rough. However, for their troubles, NMD managed to successfully steal away the boss, so that does net them a nice 5 shots. They do trade 6 in return because the Darkside boys, they did not opt to capture back their bell tower because of that boss call. So overall, it could have been a lot worse.
It really could have indeed. I mean, if we actually take a quick consideration at the damage numbers, nothing too abstract, but despite all this, Greyman is still leading by a healthy margin, at least 5,000 damage. So he is definitely still hitting hard home. As much as that damage can seem negligible with the splash that comes across the cocktail, looking to pad those stats, he is definitely a force to be reckoned with. But level 13 unlocked right now for NMD. They need to start making some plays because they've taken their cooldown to 15. They can't afford to just keep giving up these shots for free. They have no game plan.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I know we harp on that it's not all about the early game. You can let some shots go. It comes down to the later game because you can capture the bell towers and get a whole lot of shots going for you. I think that wipe, you always say 21 shots in one game, in one cap. So yeah, you can watch out for that. But if you give up too many early games, and if more importantly you give up the experience, you make your chances of coming back quite difficult.
Yeah, ANZ, never forget, 21 shots the drain. The closest we ever got to a 40-0 when NA and EU went up against each other. But back to the bot lane, that's where the 4-man rotation is. Malthael keeping up the split push to try and mirror what Zagara's been doing. And that's going to be Vikarak again, picking up these sappers, looking to try and take down that bell tower, trying to empower these altars when they do spawn. And that they do. This is the 5th altar phase of this game. It is the 2nd triple spawn, up in 24 seconds. Level 16 on the horizon for Darksided in such a strong spot.
Dark-sided, every time they see exactly what Vikrag is up to, they know they need to force the 4v5, get the numbers going in their favor, except it's hard. This is the dance that NMD need to do. You just dance until the objectives are captured. Now look at this. Now they've got their extra team member. Vikrag has joined them.
That he has, and look at that bell tower in the top lane. So close to death, but it survives on a fraction of health. Odin has been popped. Demise wants to force this fight. They want to get rowdy, and they want to abuse that level 16, which is now finally unlocked. He's looking to hit hard on towards Iceball. Robodoba wanting to get the angle. Can he get the flip? No, he can't. That's the portal. And, I mean, I think the 16 alone is enough of a threat to force NMD back away, and rightfully so.
I think in NMD, they misplayed that one a little bit. Because the bell tower didn't fall, Vikrag was expecting the minions
100%.
to passively push and cap it. It punished them deeply because it's not 3 shots that got fired, it was actually 4. And in fact, they gave up all the altars. Both of the altars out of that 3. So it really punished them. That was a misplay. They can still recover, sure, but I think you'd be a little bit frazzled with that one, surely.
Well, now you've always got the threat of boss being that win condition. They would have had 5 health otherwise, and that boss is up in a minute 30, so keep your eyes on their positioning for this one. Level 16 unlocked for NMD right now. They need to sort of find that fight. They've been avoiding the 5v5 all day long, but they can't avoid it any longer, or this game is sealed in the bag, and it is done skis. Double Sapper Camper, wow, that's an interesting terminology. Double Sapper Camper picked up in the bottom lane, and look as they come across, doing so much work single-handedly to this one. And that's going to be the Warlord challenge, looking for the instant kill onto ETC, but they cannot find it. But hang on a minute, Haircup is low, and the Divine Shield forced that very early, Vandy.
Yeah, it's like the Force of Will went onto Iceball. They did not even bother. It was Hiccup receiving the brunt of the damage. Not like this. They're chasing now. The portal, it's aggressive. He's looking for the Mosh Iceball.
See ya later, Physics. That is the mosh pit, and that is the leyline sealed, and 3 members dance, but where's the damage? We talked about it. They just have none. They can take down Ufa. A consolation prize if that. Vikrag on the flank saying, see you later session. Forcing him at the fight, doing the dance with that Tormented Souls, but only hitting the ground. This is a fight which was a wee bit sketchy. With Greymane down, they still do alright, but they're going to need to do better to stick around with this one. Boss is up in 20 seconds now.
More importantly, that huge mosh, the cooldown is now ticking 100 seconds. They need to count it down. If Physics was alive, that was the damage they needed. He got picked up just before the fight. It's just punishing NMD so much. They cannot seem to get the stars to align. They managed to pull off the ley line into mosh. Just nothing. They didn't have the damage. You could see them just weakly trying to get kills with only 1 member falls. If they were even able to get Sashin from that, then they'd have the numbers advantage in this next fight for this altar phase.
Altar phase is still in favor of NMD, but what's available for them right now? Curse Bullet and Ancestral. Mirror that with the Odin, as well as the Warlord Challenge, which comes out now, as Robodoba is actually in a hell of a lot of trouble. 3 members collapsing onto him. He's going to be the first one to fall on down. Demise popping the Odin now. Maybe a little bit too late. Is this the comeback NMD have been looking for furiously? They're going to actually try and back away from this one, playing it slow. They want those kills based on those cooldowns. Leyline Seal is up now. Ancestral is still there. And Moshpit still another 40 seconds.
I like the way Physics played that one. He dived instantly onto Hacky, forced him away from the backline. So then they were all able to capitalize on Robodoba. Portal now, they take out Jaina. She's the first to drop.
They drive on through and they get their kill. They make it work. The Ancestral connecting with Hiccup as he pops himself through that portal. And Darksided are starting to get picked apart. The late game is there, 16 minutes into this one. And we are starting to see a bit of a comeback. Alter is empowered. That's 5 shots, not 4. But they are flirting with death. They're caught on 3. They had to pick up these sappers, and they had to go for that boss as well.
You can also see by Hiccup, every time that Force of Will goes out, with that 16 talent reabsorption being taken up, the healing that comes out as well. All the damage that's being done. Oh, Sashin is in a dangerous position. He's forced to pop the Tormented Souls to try and stay alive. It's not going to be enough. He does fall. These are staggered deaths now.
I mean, they really are. And this is that late game. This is the 21-shot ANZ Dream that we were talking about. 2 picked up. Now that's 6 shots. They may just transition to the bottom lane, which has already taken a whole bunch of damage, down to half itself, for the continuous fire, saying, look, we don't need to go for the boss. There's no threat at the moment. You're always in a 4v5 situation. Your late game is our early game.
That's exactly what happened, Skimmy. Because of the delayed death of Sashin, they're put back even more time, a couple precious seconds ticking down. Look at this now. It's starting to tick in one at a time. Darksided, they do get their top bell tower to stop the constant bleeding of points. Boss is still on the map. They are waiting. They know that they cannot fight 4v5. They need Sashin on this next team fight. They can give a couple shots. They do have that leeway, that padding.
It actually puts them into such a commanding situation right now because NMD for the first time are in the lead with the XP on the hunt for level 20. They're going to go for the boss, denying it as this next altar phase spawns. Only one in that bottom lane as Darksiders cycle through the map, clearing out every single bell tower, reclaiming it as their own, evening out those shots to make it 4 for 4.
Yep. With that altar now being up, they need to capitalize on this one. They can move into position, delaying it. The bell towers, you can see how much time was wasted by Darksiders to try and recapture all of these. Finally, they've stabilized. They're going to be ready for the fight. Vikarak is pushing, though. Every chance he gets, he's going to lead on, get that push down. Even if he captures this one bell tower, though, it's still enough shots. It wasn't even contested, though. Darkseid, they were not going to contest that one, instead opting to defend their bell tower.
No, they seem to be the team playing chicken as they're constantly running around the map to try and find out a member, not too sure what to do. They're looking for level 20, which isn't too far away from them. But the result is NMD can go back to this bottom lane, they can push on down that bell tower, they can utilize the sappers ideally to try and take it down completely. Zagara can then return to the top lane, push on through as well, and try and begin the constant siege, the assault, the barrage of shots, as you will.
This is also where globals can really come into play. So that Nidus network we can see by Vikarak, he set it up quite nicely. He's got one in the top, in the mid, in the bot. He can go put pressure on every aspect of the lanes. With those front walls being down, as I said, you lay the bell towers, and they're very vulnerable, especially when you've got that level 20, the scaling and damage that comes with it.
I mean, the saving grace right now for Darkseid is they need to play it patiently, and they need to retain that calm composure, realizing, look, we need to just get one shot. 3 shots across onto the core do it for us. That can be from sappers, that can be from the altar, that can be from the boss. We have so much to play around with. We still have 18 shots on our core. As long as we don't have these staggered deaths, that's been an issue for us so far. I mean, we've got all the time in the world. We don't need to force anything out of desperation, which we see some teams do.
Exactly. It just comes down to one fight, and that's what their team is based around. They know that they have the stronger team fight and the lockdown. Look at this, though. Every time Hiccup can, he's in that bird form, getting as much vision as possible, keeping tabs on the Darksided boy, also utilizing that bird's eye view that he picked up at 4 to give him even more vision. But, like I said, it's just a ticking time bomb. Vikarak as well doing work, top bell tower now being taken. Putting pressure on that middle one. 2 altars will be up this time around.
And this is where, once again, the rotations really come into play as a result of that Nidus network. Everyone from Darkseid and in the bot lane forced to respond. And Vikarak, what does he do? He just goes through mid lane and says, you cannot respond to this. I can go and take this one out for free. The rest of NMD can do whatever they can to slow down the advance. So what was suddenly a 2 bell tower advantage, back into a 2 bell tower advantage as the next altar phase spawns. That will be 6 shots in their favor if they can find this one, Bandy.
Darkseid, they're looking for a fight, with the NMD boys just looking to poke.
Leyland still used very early on, going to lock out one, but Sashin is on the hunt with that cap. Icebot is forced to run into it. You can see Demise in the backline doing so much work in that Odin form. They're going to try and go for the one shot on towards Icebot. That's going to be a collapse. The reverse one shot, but speak of it, Ring of Frost finding Insane Valley. Force Will doing overtime right now, and then Session just cannot come across quickly enough. Divine Shield in the backline. This is the fight that Darkseid wanted, and that's the fight that Darkseid will get. Only 1 casualty at the start of this one. They find 3. With all things said and done, Mooks can begin the channel, and they can breathe a heavy sigh of relief.
They can. This was the one fight that Darkseid, they're waiting, ticking, posturing for it. Unfortunately, Sashin, he falls in the trade. Lahal might be next. He cannot escape this, but Demise, he's traded out because he's taking so much damage from Vikarak. Can he get another kill? Vikarak, he's trying, but it does not matter. It's going to be game. That was all they needed to finish it off. Capture the bell tower, capture the altar.
Yeah, it all came down to that final altar phase, and you could see a bit of panic really from NMD. They burnt at the Leyline Seal very early on. There was no follow-up. We've usually seen that as the pairing between the Leyline and the Mosh Pit, but it wasn't there, and then they were going in one by one. Wasn't the dream, and Darkseid had stabilized much the same as they did during the early and mid game. So a 1-0 lead in this best of 3 to decide the seeding going into those championship finals. But as we get ready for game number 2, back to your host, Crisis, and we'll get ready for this next one.
Thank you very much, Skimmy. And, well, that is game number 1 down to Darksided. NMD will look to come back in the second match, in the second game. We'll be bringing that to you in just a couple of minutes. And before that match starts, After the break, though, we'll be drawing another one of those Loot Chest codes. So make sure you enter !GS HOTS and make sure you're following the channel. You've got to be a follower to win. We did the draw during that pause. It was a perfectly timed pause, guys, because we got to do the draw that I forgot to do before the game started. And the first person that was picked wasn't a follower, so we had to redraw. So make sure you enter. We'll be right back with game number 2 of Dark-Sided versus NMD.